Welcome to our live chat with our global team, the documentary team that's been working together for well over a year. What we're going to be doing today with this year-end report is inviting each of our guests who are members of the team from over a year ago to most recently just a few months. And we want to focus on what does each team member see as the best progress or the most meaningful progress that we've made on the project. And the project does look at a feature-length movie, a documentary, and movement on the ground to make a difference. We'll end with what do we see as our vision for 2024? And we're inviting our visitors to also join into the conversation with each speaker and to the whole group. What do you see as the progress? If you just stop, pause, reflect for a moment, what do you feel really good about in terms of being on this team? And what do you hope for next year? What do you see us manifesting? If our visitors would also introduce yourselves on the chat and put a location where you are, and we will begin with our first guest, Sara Valez. So here we go. So welcome, Sara. Sara, you are a partner, from New Jersey, and we've had a lot of interaction this fall. You started with us this summer. And so I'd like you to first do a brief introduction and then talk about some of the progress you've seen, both working with Rutgers. We went to Rutgers together, and then Centenary University. So let's just start to share some of the perspective you have on progress. So,
Sure.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Sara Valez. I'm a licensed clinical social worker based in New Jersey, Monmouth County, New Jersey. And I own my own private practice, Operation Hope. We provide equine-assisted psychotherapy and traditional telehealth therapy, as well as ecotherapy. And I connected with Janet over the summer as we kind of began discussing just this mental health crises in the country and how this need for alternative healing modalities is so important. And had the great pleasure of having Janet and Dr. Chatlos out to the farm. A beautiful rescue farm with over 85 rescued animals, and they really got the firsthand experience of the healing power of horses, and really were able to connect and just share our vision of this documentary and the impact globally that this message is having. And I'm just so grateful to be part of it. I see this film, the documentary, the film, impacting my own personal life as I've just become just more passionate about this topic. I am a spiritual person. I am a woman of faith, and just to be bringing spirituality into the mental health standard of care is just such an amazing goal and mission and vision. And it's so needed in today's world of people just feeling so disconnected and alone and hurting. And I see it every day in the work that I do that with people struggling. So to be able to bring this to a more macro level through the work that we've done at Rutgers University, at the medical school, being able to really witness that firsthand, those really impactful discussions about spirituality and mental health, and hearing medical professionals speak on this topic was just so inspiring. Hearing Dr. Chatlos speak on this was incredible. And that was just such a great roundtable discussion we had, led by Dale Caldwell, the president of Centenary University, who is also a man of faith and just such a inspiring, motivational person. And as Janet mentioned, we had the pleasure of visiting Centenary University, which is really a jewel in New Jersey. I'd never been, and I was blown away just by the opportunity there and the potential to really partner with that university and to bring some real structural change to the mental health system. And to hear Dale, starting programs like the happiness degree, that I think it's the first master's degree in the country. It's amazing. I want to get my master's in that. And just to really hear his vision, and it aligned so beautifully with the vision of the film and the documentary, and to just bring this to everyone. Everyone should hear this message, and how spiritual crises are happening across the globe among many faiths, or denominations. And so I'm just so excited to be part of this. I'm on this team because I do believe that we need, this message to be brought into the world to highlight alternative therapies, whether it's equine assisted psychotherapy or the use of psychedelics, or just incorporating more spiritual practices into our mental health system is so important. And I'm just excited to be part of this. And yeah, I think that's all I have.
And we are very thankful that you are here and that you did join us on some of our road trips. So given that we want to highlight progress, there is progress literally at Rutgers Medical School with psychiatrists teaching, preaching the research about the difference between spiritual crisis and psychosis. And that is in, a lot of the research for the documentary. We'll hear Colleen talk about that in a little bit. And then you got to see that we are establishing a base in New Jersey. We're sending a message that by some of us focusing on our state locally, we're going to be able to make a bigger impact across the nation and the globe. So we're going to be encouraging people to take a look at what can you do locally to establish strong collaborations, a base. Centenary University will be a base for our filming as well, and conferences. So we'll hear more about that. So Sara, I'm going to put you in the back room and I'm going to bring Marlena up. We'll see you in just a little bit. So thank you. So Marlena, welcome. Marlena is joining us from what I call the 20-somethings group. We are looking to bring a younger group in. Last night on the live event, then we did speak to the need to address the younger generation, the teenagers, but we want to focus on the 20-somethings to start assisting with advice, help, link up. So welcome, Marlena. Please introduce yourself, what you've been doing with the project, and how you see progress.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Marlena Kolesinska. I'm currently in South Carolina, and I'm 25, and I had my own psychosis, mania, spiritual emergency potential experience when I was 21, almost 22, right at the start of the pandemic. Spent 3.5 months in this confusing land, but very spiritual land that was very healing, but also very traumatizing because of the way that the crisis was handled. And so I was hospitalized as well. And, that experience was kind of cut short, and I'm still integrating that knowledge today. I've kind of 3 or 4 years removed from that experience, and I've still had further spiritual experiences since then, and I'm still in the integration process. And, as we know, this can often take a pretty as it stands today. So I hope that to see no one else go through, the traumatic experiences that I have gone through, that other survivors have gone through, and that we can, make a giant paradigm shift in how we handle mental health care. Yes. And I joined on this team actually on my 25th birthday. I met Janet through wonderful synchronicities, and just became instantly in love with this project and this movement. It was already aligning with what I wanted to do, but I didn't have the means to do it by myself, and so I think it's really important that we have this big global team that is dedicated to this project with a lot of passion. So it's good to be here.
It's good to have you. And you're joining us from North Carolina?
South Carolina.
South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
We do hope to get you up here to New Jersey to do some filming this summer. But a very specific thing, Marlena, I'm so thankful that you're assisting us with editing some of our videos. We have well over 100 hours of video recordings, which is a progress. We've shot a lot of film. We will continue to shoot more film in the first quarter of next year, but you're helping me get through the backlog and piecing things together so that we can use it to inform. So thank you. Let's keep going. Your creativity is fabulous. We do have your YouTube up here. If people want to take a look, I was fascinated also with your musical talent, singing and playing the piano. So we hope to see more of that and inclusion of your music in the documentary. So Marlena, will have you back in just a little bit. We're going to bring Colleen DeJoseph on. So we'll see you in a moment. Colleen.
Hi.
Welcome. So Colleen, I am so thankful that I don't know how long you've been doing it. It definitely feels like through the year that you've been helping me keep the magnitude of topics together in a project plan for the documentary. So many times I've been asked for the outline and what are we doing? And we sort of know what we're doing. We have a focus, but as you know, many people have added depth and breadth of research topics that now the progress is we're doing a docuseries. We can't do it in one documentary. And you have done a real service to the project team to keep that edited. So would you please also introduce yourself, a little background, and then, what do you see as the progress having watched this this year go by?
Sure. So I'm Colleen DeJoseph. I'm a marriage and family therapist and also a transpersonal psychologist. I had my own experience back in 2011. And as a result of that experience, I decided to go to graduate school after finding out about the field of transpersonal psychology, which has been researching anomalous spiritual experiences since the 60s. And I earned my doctorate. And when I was thinking about doing my doctorate, what I recognized was there was no representation in the research literature of people who were diagnosed with a pathological label who felt that they were misdiagnosed. So my research looked at what the impact it was of having a spiritual experience misdiagnosed by the Western medical model of psychiatry. So it's a topic that I'm really passionate about that we're working on with this documentary and movie, for sure.
Absolutely. And, we're not going to get into too much the details of our stories. We'll have to say, everybody watch the movie. But something that you really, that impacted me, that, somebody in that, when you were in the system, somebody made a comment in terms of you're going to have a limited life. You can't go for advanced degree. And here you are, you have your PhD and you are providing service. And, from what it looks like 24/7, you are in high need out in Long Island. So, God bless you for sticking to what you believed and being on this. If you would comment on another point of progress, a number of us made it down to University of Delaware this fall at the ISPS US conference. You presented for the first time in that arena. Tell us what that did for you in terms of progress and engagement on this project. You were present with a whole team of people.
Yeah, it was just really exciting because there are so many people, especially at that conference, which is representative of the larger population, that really want change within the system and really want these experiences to be recognized as valid and as the healing experiences that they actually are. So it's just exciting that so many people are pushing for change around the dominant narrative. And that's what excites me about the documentary and the movie, is that we're bringing this different lens to these experiences to the general public. And that's really powerful.
Yes. And it's powerful that we actually met each other in person. So our intent, as we go forward, is to have more of that, where we can fly people in, we can gather and really work together, either in conferences or on filming shoots. But I know I think you used the term, you were stoked when you met people. So we will have you back as well, Colleen, in a few moments. We're going to be bringing Nadine, and I think you're managing your on-off stage, Colleen, because I might not be able to. Is that true? Are you? It's almost like I think you got on, and if I can't get you off, you stay on. You stay on with us. Excuse me. So I'm bringing Nadine on, and let's see. Here we go. We'll leave you on, Colleen, because I'm not seeing where you are here on my screen. So Nadine, there we go.
Hi.
Welcome from the UK.
Yeah.
Welcome from the UK. We met when I saw your presentation on Drop the Disorder or Disorder for Everyone, Joe Watson. And
Yes.
you were the only one I really immersed into. And we followed up and clicked instantly across the ocean.
Yeah.
So if you would introduce yourself, and then you are one of the newest members, share, what are you seeing that even makes you want to be a part of the team being here?
Yeah. So my name's Nadine Denneth. I'm currently living on the island of Ireland, but I'm from England. So my reason for being here, Janet, is basically this is the first project that I'm aware of its kind that's bringing the theme of spiritual emergence into the conversation and in a global conversation. So we discussed, privately how the recovery from people who have gone into mental health institutions who may have had a spiritual emergence may have come, had completely different experiences to what my family had gone through. I was a carer for my dad and my sister, and they had extremely negative health outcomes as a result of going through the mental health system. So it's important, I think, for people to see through this project the variety of experiences that people can have post-hospitalization, and how the law, and that's what I'm going to be discussing, is effectively complicit in enabling some health outcomes that are not so positive. And that's really the theme that I want to obviously put forward for this conversation, is what can the law do to change this narrative?
Tell us just briefly, you went through, we call it litigation, for 8 years in support of your father, and you won a settlement. Don't have to go through the details, but that really prompted you to go into, getting a degree in medical ethics, now into a law degree. I think that's so amazing, the commitment to go get a degree after that experience. Do you want to comment on that?
For me, it was, so it's a very long story. I was my dad's carer for 8 years, as you said. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in his early 30s, but when he was in his late 50s, he had a relapse that resulted in him being hospitalized as a result of his psychosis. I hadn't even considered going into the law at that point. I was in the police at the time. I was a civilian police staff member taking 999 calls at the point when my dad actually was becoming ill. It's just the way things have happened, where that I'm now actually considering, well, I'm going to become a lawyer, but it's going to take some years now. I'm on the beginning of that process. But my degree was really, I did a medical law and ethics master's degree, and that was really just my summarizing of an 8-year journey with my dad, and how I used the law to actually get justice for him, because I was put off by so many people before, when I was trying to get legal advice at the time. People weren't really offering me a solution as to how I could help him legally. And through chance, I met a barrister, told him the story of what had happened before I'd even taken legal advice. He was the one who was instrumental in me knowing what to do at what stage. And I want to be able to help other people with exactly what I went through, to help others, because it was a minefield. I was going to different solicitors to understand what I could do, and they were telling me that my dad didn't have a chance of getting any justice. So I was going to just give up. But the way it worked out was I met the right people. And through that experience, I was able to get a settlement for my father. But, it took, and sadly, he passed away just a month before the settlement. So he didn't actually get to see the actual outcome to that. And obviously he knew what we were doing, but it's just, I've got other family members that I can't talk about, as you know, but I will obviously openly speak about what happened to my dad, and I can share it here a bit later for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad you bring in the legal aspects of this because in the documentary, we have interviewed Jim Gottstein from Psych Rights. He is in there. We have a number of team members that have gone through litigation and are going through litigation.
Yeah.
I'm just going to comment. I see Denise Maritos here from California. We are looking to add a case that many people might not know about, but I think it was 2012. Denise, correct me if I'm wrong. Paula Kaplan put a complaint into the American Psychiatric Association, like the official, with somewhere between 9-10 people who have been misdiagnosed, wrongly treated. And it did not have, much progress in an outcome, but it was submitted. I want to bring that back into the documentary and get 9 women, thank you, and actually get some commentary on what happened to that case, because we have a new president and, let's see. So you're a part of litigation, and our other team members who have and still are. We want to bring that out because psych rights and legal laws, sometimes we even have them and they're not followed through. So, so thank you, Nadine. We'll have you back in just a bit. Let's see, we are bringing Bret Warshawsky here. So we'll see you in a moment, Nadine. So, Bret, welcome.
Hello.
And you're not in Greece, you're in Egypt.
I'm in Egypt, yes.
So a lot of people probably do know of you. We've been working together really since the beginning. You have your own docu-series and vision of what you do. You see what we're doing on this team. We see some brotherhood, sisterhood, and crossover between what we're doing. If you would do a brief introduction and then talk about what do you see as the progress. And I'm thinking, Bret, in January, we looked at the raw notes of project plan and we started editing. I mean, that's where we started with a few people in January. So introduction and progress.
All right. So my name's Bret. I'm from New Jersey. I'm a global nomad and I'm in Cairo, Egypt at the moment. And my introduction, I'll just identify myself. I'm a spiritual and evolutionary philanthropist. I'm a futurist. And I'm an artivist, which is combining art and activism. So the reason I chose those 3 terms is because as an evolutionary and spiritual philanthropist, I basically invest myself. I invest my whole self into people and missions and initiatives that mean something to me. And I invest myself in any way I can with the resources I have available internally, with my energy and my love and my intention and my time. And I lend skills and I invest money if I have it, whatever. So I just throw myself into what I care about, basically. And also as a evolutionary and spiritual philanthropist, I pay attention to my guidance and my intuition. And I go towards where energy is and to where change happens. So I'm not only investing in startups or business opportunities, I'm really looking to invest in change, in a more loving and expansive reality and planet. So that's why I'm here, number 1, as part of this project. And as a futurist and an artivist, my biggest passion when it comes to systems change within mental health, as we're all talking about, is what I call a civil rights movement for the soul. And I have a piece I call Unbreakable Spirit, which is a docu-series. But I want to say, Janet, what strikes me most in listening to everybody is a few key points, which is the commitment, devotion, and passion among all these people, among all of us. And that's why I say movement, civil rights movement for the soul. If you look back to other civil rights movements or social movements, there wasn't an internet. So we didn't get to witness maybe the inner workings and the emergence of things like that. But in today's age, obviously you can do that. And that's how I feel. I feel like I'm witnessing that level of impact and commitment. It's not necessarily just about a documentary, just about a business. It's all things that matter in bringing new philosophies and perspectives on life on Earth, and including especially mental health. So I'm really just proud. I'm proud to be part of this team, and I'm proud to be a part of this larger movement that we also stand for. Hundreds and thousands of people around the planet right now having similar discussions, whether it's law, finance, whatever, art, everyone. There's a lot of us. And what I've seen as progress wise, again, framing it, feeling like I'm watching a movie unfold or a movement, what I've seen is that movement become more solidified. Now, may not look like that to all 8 billion citizens of the planet right now, but from point A, where we started, to point B on the journey we're at right now, I feel like I see that inner anchor of people in our district here, what we're all capable of, just like I can picture Martin Luther King and all of his friends when they were sitting in Selmar, like planning things and figuring out what to do. And I've seen a lot of progress on that level. And I've seen a lot of personal progress between Janet and myself in our own lives, because this is a thing. This is a mission. And the last thing I'll say, Janet, is also noticing when we all had our experiences. So Marlena, was talked about a few years ago. Here I am 30 years after my first spiritual emergence and being in the hospital 7 times in 10 years against my will. Janet, I think you're on year 43 from your original spiritual
44 years.
44. So my point being is, like, this is a lifetime. That's how traumatic and dramatic and life-changing these experiences are. That's the point I want to make. This isn't just like a Sunday afternoon. Maybe we need to change like how lunch gets served at the local YMCA. Like, it tells you how impactful these things are, that people like ourselves spend our whole lives coming out of that experience and wanting to change the world, wanting to make it, like Marlena said, so other people maybe don't have to receive and the level of trauma that a lot of us receive. So I think that's amazing. Like, that's why I feel the resilience. My final point about the progress. There is now a kernel of resilience, I believe, in our space, again, in our project here, and the people that are attracted to each other, that has evolved from where we started, Janet. And as a spiritual person and as an evolutionary philanthropist, that's the most important thing to me. Like, we can make movies and all that, but the most important thing is there's a kernel of people here with various skills and various networks, and I can feel the movement.
Yes.
And that's not just poetry. I mean, just trying to put words to an actual feeling and experience. Yeah.
Thank you. And, it's great to have people who have been here from the beginning, and also new people seeing and witnessing movement. We've said it's more than a movie, it's a movement. And we're actually starting to show, feel, sense, know that movement is happening. So Bret, we'll bring you back in just a little bit. We are going to bring Laura Lee Scott on in just a moment. So we'll welcome Laura. And Laura, I can introduce you as my birthday twin sister. We are born on the same day, but years apart. And you will introduce yourself in a moment, but I'm going to kick it off with literally 44 years ago today. I was sitting on a couch, not too unlike the couch you're sitting on. Where do you think that couch was, though? I'm going to give you the clue. It was at a psychiatric institution at Rutgers University. I was 25 years old. And I was sitting on the couch because I had been there for about a week and a half. And I'm like, I want to be out for Christmas. Come on. I had a great spiritual experience. They misdiagnosed me. They made me, come in here. And I'm like, just trying to be compliant to get out in time for Christmas. And I did. And we are now 44 years later making a movie. So I'm glad that you're a part of it. And I know you've had experiences not from 44 years ago, but, as dramatic, if not more. So, we might touch on that. But if you would introduce yourself, because you're a professional writer, published author, now a certified peer coach, speaker, advocate, so many things. If you would introduce yourself, and then also note, what do you see as the progress in the time span you've been watching this?
Okay. Well, hi, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with Janet and all of you today. And I'm humbled by all of you. I'm not someone who likes to toot my own horn, and so it's difficult for me to talk about who I am, because I feel like that's always evolving and changing. But yes, I am a professional writer and editor and graphic designer, poet, and have owned my own businesses for many, many years. I've made a living as a professional writer for 30 years. But more than that, I'm a spiritual seeker of truth, lifelong, and could really identify with everything that Bret just was talking about. I love his evolutionary and spiritual philanthropist phrasing is just phenomenal. I might have to borrow that from you, Bret. But you know, I'm very excited about being part of this project. I would say that the main thing that I'm seeing here is basically the shift in energies, which is similar also to what Bret said. I've witnessed and I've participated in what feels like a movement on multiple levels. It's not just here, earthly level, but it's also a supernatural level. And it's actively identifying and deconstructing old, negative, unhealthy patterns and paradigms while defining and constructing new, more hope-filled, empowering, healthy energies. And none of that can be done quickly or from a place of ego, right? So it takes like so much inner work. And all of us are on that journey, and we're all at different stages and phases of that journey. But it is a complex journey, and it is a messy journey because of all of our social conditioning, all of our cultural conditioning, all of our belief systems being broken down and rebuilt. I do believe that those of us who have been called to be part of this project, as well as other projects that are related to reframing the mental healthcare system for the better, are being tasked with the immense but hope-filled challenge of learning to humbly, respectfully, gracefully, and maturely, which is a tough one, trudge our way upstream through very difficult subject matter, the kind that is very personal, triggering, nuanced, and has inarguably caused a lot of serious trauma and stigma for a whole lot of people the world over.
Laura, this is why we have you on the team to help us write the story. Your ability to articulate and clarify. I love many of the videos you've contributed of your message to the documentary, and you just did it again. We could spend the hour, hearing your thought and voice. If it's okay, I'm going to put you backstage and bring one more on, and then everybody will come on together. So thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
And we are inviting John Griffith as our final speaker to introduce himself, and then we'll have everyone together. So now, John, you are in somewhat of a different category in terms of our work together, meaning we've done corporate business consulting conversations. That's been our mainstay for the last few years. That's your background. That's my background. Yeah. You're also a former actor, which means you still have acting talent. We've invited you to play a role in the movie as my business partner. Because over the years, I've had somebody like you kind of walking with me through the business consulting. So I want to introduce you with that. You can obviously tell us what you're doing currently, but then jump right into what have you seen as the progress? Because we have talked weekly for years on this. Yeah. So would love to hear your overall perspective of what you've heard so far, but also through your own eyes. So your introduction and then progress.
Thank you, Janet. So she gave you a little bit of my background, and one more point, I grew up in a family business, so I've always been intrigued, and was an actor and a singer for a very long time, and have been in the training and development business, meaning with corporations, helping business leaders get better at what they want to do better, including executive coaching. And that's where Janet and I met. It's about 3.5 years ago, I think, Janet. And so I've seen a span that I don't think anybody on the team has seen. Now, many of them have gone much more deeply than I in certain areas, but they haven't seen the span. So I want to go there. And one more personal note before I do. I want to pick up on Laura having mentioned the word grace.
Mm.
And I realize as we look at wanting to change things that have hurt us, frustrated us, hurt family members, all of that, sometimes we want to fight to get a change. And that's understandable. And sometimes that's what's necessary. I think it's also really important to reflect, well, my faith has kept me alive through a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
God has sustained me through a lot of life's stuff. And so, and God pours out grace. And when she mentioned the word grace, I think the grace that we can offer as we undertake these things, which is system change in the mental health world, awakening people to how things can be handled differently and much more integrated fashion and that sort of thing. I think grace will attract people very powerfully, and we have the paradigm for that. And so a graceful attitude as we work together, I think, will be a wonderful thing. And I hear it in people's voices and in their orientation in each of the speakers. So maybe that's one of the progress areas I want to highlight. Denneth is multidimensional. For those who haven't,
Multidimensional person.
yes, all of the directions in which Denneth's creativity goes and the insights that she has, where they come from, that's what she and I have been talking about essentially for the 3.5 or so years we've known each other, and about application of those in more corporate situations. What's exciting about this is it's an integration, I think, for her in her life, and for so many people, of saying, okay, those skills are there, and those skills can help shift something that has been incredibly important, which is the mental health industry trying to do its best and having major challenges in it. And so the documentary is one direction of it. The movie is another direction to focus on. And then corporate work, to work with the mental health institutions, hospitals who pre-qualify people when they come in with an emergency, doctors, the diagnoses, the DSM diagnosis system, for those who are not familiar. It's what doctors use to kind of refer to certain different syndromes and things like that. All of those things are getting addressed through this multidimensional effort and the many gifts that people are bringing to the effort from many different directions. And integration has been a word for the two of us for almost the entire 3.5, 4 years. And so I see it. There have been many attempts to get various elements of this going over the years. It is so different now. And maybe, Bret said mentioned the level of commitment. I think that's a big part of it. There's a clarity, though, that's different. I think there's a time and a place for things. The Ecclesiastes, to everything there's a season. And there are times when it seemed your efforts, Denneth, were way ahead of where society was able to even see and understand what the heck you were talking about. So I think we're so much closer to being able to see, accept, and absorb and react to, and maybe do something. And I think that may be one reason the team is sensing that, and that is helping maintain and regenerate commitment, so that progress is made. And it's hard to make progress with people who are not hired to do the work you're doing. That's a challenge. So when people commit to something like that, something good is going on. And so I one of the things that is important to me is I have a very powerful belief that in the power of spiritual awakening and spiritual deepening for healing. And in whether someone's had a traumatic experience or they're just dealing with the vicissitudes of life that we all deal with. And I see us bringing so much awareness to those needs and other ways to deal with it, integrated ways. Sometimes you need a medical approach, and then sometimes you need a spiritual approach, and sometimes you need some of each or both, or one leading into the other. And I think you're bringing out, with all these projects, the opportunity for society to see it differently and for a big shift to happen.
What a perspective, John. I'm looking forward to our weekly call this week after this. We're really looking to highlight it is more than a movie. It is a movement. And we are seeing things on ground level. I noticed Reverend Tim from Centenary University is on here. And we're going to talk in a little bit about involving clergy. That's a big progress step that happened this week. I am going to bring the team back on. I'm going to start with Sara because I know you do need to leave. And since you were the first one to be able to comment, and there we go. I can get you, Colleen. So Sara, let's give you a chance to comment in case you do have to leave early on what you've heard. And, is it anything more new, different, emphasized from what you've been seeing just in the last few months? What really struck you from the presenters? Oh, you're muted. Everybody can unmute themselves except Bret. You have a lot of traffic in the background.
Yes, you can hear the Egyptian drivers in the background.
Exactly.
Yes. But yes, no, thank you. I was just so touched and moved by everyone's introduction and sharing. And, I just, like Bret was saying, just kind of this intuitive movement, even just the way I connected with Janet originally just felt so kind of, ordained from above and a spiritual connection. And I just believe that there's this higher power that's really directing this film, and that's really just kind of orchestrating things so exactly and so in such detail that it really is beyond kind of human explanation at times. And that's just a feeling I've had kind of over and over again as I've been just blessed to be involved in this project. So, I'm here kind of humbly serving. I feel, when Janet and Dr. Calvin first asked me to be involved, I was like, I don't have background in this documentary, but I'm willing and I'm very excited and just passionate about this project and this, the bigger macro level changes that really need to be made in today's world, and this kind of global healing that really is just right kind of here. And I just think it's exciting that we're all part of it, and I just feel very grateful to be part of this team. So
excellent.
Thank you.
And Sara, because you were up at Centenary, I'm going to ask you to do one more comment. Reverend Tim is on our chat here, and you got to meet him. We were very impressed with the inspiration and thought process that Reverend Tim brought to the Centenary meeting. We do understand that we're going to be collaborating, supporting a pastoral care retreat, hopefully a mental health retreat for spiritual and religious leaders. And I'm going to link it to, because we're going to invite Reverend Tim to our New Jersey coalition. Every Tuesday, big progress part is we have a team of 5, 10, 15 people that are a mix of various religions and mental health workers. And we talk every Tuesday to plan the strategy to make a difference first in New Jersey and set a stage for how do we include the clergy into the mental health care. So that is a long introduction to please offer your thought. What was it like for you to hear Reverend Tim's comments and excitement, and then also be part of the New Jersey Coalition?
Yeah, so the New Jersey Coalition's been such a great kind of momentum keeper, I feel like, in just keeping the discussion going among mental health practitioners and then the clergy. And the whole kind of Janet and I really became interested in this clergy support as we just heard, the stress and the strain of a lot of these clergy members are carrying on a daily basis and may at times feel like they don't have the support to go to. So I did have the pleasure of meeting Pastor Tim and hearing kind of his mission at Centenary University, which is a historically Methodist college. It's now no longer maybe Methodist aligned, but there is just a very deep Christian kind of community of caring and nurturing, which you really feel when you're on that campus. So just, we were kind of talking about the mental health of college students and just being on that campus felt very supportive of healthy mental well-being. You know, when I was in college, that was certainly not the focus. So I just love that they're really nurturing and pouring into these young adults who need it as they're about to enter the world. And I think Centenary is a really great model of that care that we could be implementing, you know, in the youth, because I know the president of Centenary is very focused on urban trauma and healing urban trauma. And that's something that we're obviously seeing such spikes in, and just trauma across the globe. So to have a safe space to really be connected to the film is such a blessing. And yeah, the coalition Tuesday night has just been a great kind of source of support and connection. And it's been a great, like I said, just kind of keeping the momentum, the conversations going is so important.
So that covered a number of areas where anyone, we encourage you, if you have a local college, to start to see how can you partner, because they have the whole system there. You know, they have the counseling center, campus ministry, academia, doing research, and, you know, all of the rest. So, you know, we're set up next year to continue and expand that and actually have some conferences. And hope that that can happen also for you. I'm going to link it to Rutgers, because Rutgers really did a big kickoff for us this fall to demonstrate that psychiatrists are up in front of a stage presenting the difference between psychosis and spirituality. And really their content was similar to what some of our research scientists on the team has come up with. Last night, we identified Petros Lavanos as somebody we are going to focus on early on in the first quarter to get him to be in the documentary, comment, and also be on a podcast by Jen Gaeta Siciliano. And we think we have the right focus. Marlena, I don't know if you were there for that conversation, but that was a kind of a high point when we focused on where do we want to go? We want to get the president of the American Psychiatric Association to comment on what does he want to do to transform psychiatric care in the mental health system. So with that lead in, I'm almost going to start to invite any commentary from the speakers to other speakers, and or start to think about 2024. We're really only a week and a half, a few days away to welcoming 2024. What do each of us want to see? What do we imagine we can impact in our own local area, impact on a larger scale? What do we want to see happen with the documentary? Mainstream awareness. So I'd like to start there with anyone that has a beginning inspiration. What do we want to see happen in 2024? Marlena?
Yeah. So I would say on a personal level, you know, I'm hoping to get involved with the college that I went to, the College of Charleston, and hopefully open or start a peer support kind of oriented service. You know, I was pretty dissatisfied by our college's counseling services. When I went to them multiple times, they turned me away and said, we don't know how to help you, you know, and that's not really what you want to hear, you know, it makes you feel more broken. And there's a lot of power in peer support and peer advocacy. So I think, you know, trying to see what we can do on our local colleges, like you were saying, you know, branch out, try to see what we can do in terms of peer support and people with lived experience, you know, stepping up to be the voices of, you know, helping others with their own lived experience, which is a difficult task, you know, by all means. But, you know, I think that would be a really good focus point, is focusing on colleges where, you know, a lot of students do struggle with mental health, and a lot of big reason for them to drop out of college is mental health, you know. So education focus would be a really good place to start. And also, I think just in terms of our documentary, looking at making sure that, you know, what we're doing is in solidarity and not in charity. You know, that's a big, I guess, kind of hairy boundary sometimes, that, you know, you can do work that is helping other people or seeming to help other people, We just want to make sure it's not charity, right, and it's actually in solidarity. And I think we are doing that, right, but just something to keep, at the forefront, I would think, because it can happen easily, to go back into a kind of charity model. Yeah, that's all I have to say for now. But yeah,
For this moment, but you get to come back. I want to applaud you for caring about reaching out to your local college. You have a lot of support on this team to assist in that. My background is college student development. I love the college campus. And we now have some other colleges, my alma mater, the College of New Jersey. We have Rutgers University, and now we have Centenary, to maybe add some support to. We're doing it. We're working on that area to help you do that. And then I think that links also to the area we'd like you to expand on, focusing on the 20-somethings, the younger group who is going through that personal growth stage, but also might be subject to some mental health challenges, and how we can prevent them from getting caught up in the negative part of the mental health system. So we have lots of work to do, Marlena.
we do.
Sara, I know you do have a few more minutes before you go, so I'm going to bring back to you when you have to go at 2. What do you envision for next year? What are you hoping for? What's the impact you want to see us catapult, move, manifest?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big piece is just continuing to collaborate, to get the word out, to get funders, to really find people that believe in this and want to invest in realistic ways. Whether I loved how Bret was saying, the spiritual philanthropy, that piece of, maybe we don't have deep pockets, but that piece of just giving of ourselves, but aligning with people that can really bring this docuseries to creation, to existence, and making bigger, really policy change. The 988, which I don't know if we've touched on, but that's a kind of coalition to really bring more support to people in mental health crises. And so that's an important thing. So really just more of the structural kind of policy change, getting into the hospital systems, getting into the treatment centers, really kind of making the spiritual piece more of a standard of care in really across the country, globally, of course, but we're starting here in New Jersey, and there's a lot of movement, and I think there's a lot of, openness to that at this point. So that's something to really be focused on, and then just continuing to highlight all of the, alternative modalities of therapy and ways that people heal. It's not a linear thing. It's a very holistic approach. So that's very exciting to me.
You touched on a number of pieces. I know Bret will go next, but just to emphasize, we are absolutely looking to propose to the New Jersey governor a new standard of care. We have a number of psychiatrists working on a standard of care for mental health, so that if people are escorted into the hospital system, there is an awareness of a more holistic approach and the spiritual competency required. So that is a very specific task that we're looking to implement. And kind of tag teaming on that. In the documentary, we're going to be highlighting alternative support systems, so that it's not always a hospital. There are peer respites, as well as many other things that we're going to be introducing. So we're partnering with CSPNJ, Collaborative Support Services Programs of New Jersey, where we're informing our clergy and our audience that there are peer respites, and most people don't know about them. And so we want to get on the news and really make it more clear to families, friends, that these things exist. So thank you, Sara. If I say officially goodbye, I know you have to leave, but thank you for being here.
Yeah,
Bret,
thank you
you
all.
wanted to go.
I was just hoping to catch Sara as well before she left, so it's perfect timing. I think she has a couple minutes. There's so many pieces to tie together. What I wanted to say is that I'm from New Jersey. So this idea of local, and I've been working global for the last 12 years. It wasn't only a few months ago that I hadn't been in the States for 5 years. So the docuseries I'm working on one of the taglines is a personal story in service to a collective journey. So for me, I very much see things through the lens of the hero's journey. And the final stage of the hero's journey is when you come home to your community with the elixir, what the wisdom is, what is the gem that you're giving back to the community that you've gone through all those challenges for. So for me, Sara, to hear you being in New Jersey, and John and Dr. Reverend Tim and Janet, for me, again, on the instinctual level, on the level of patterns and watching things, it's incredible for me to think I could come home to New Jersey and have this base of activists and heart-based people with all these skills, which I don't normally have a lot of friends because I've been traveling so much. So there's something very important for me in this homecoming, in this local thing, despite all this global work I do. And just to to show you the synchronicities and things, like I went to school at UMDMJ and I did a year-long internship at CSPNJ. So part of my docuseries is documenting how I went through all that. I went back to school for this, and I actually did an internship. And at my internship, I did a program for a year called the Happiness Agenda. And you have Centenary, which has the happiness degree, right? So part of my docuseries has that personal like narrative where we're not just covering like people doing interviews about their experience. This is again where we're talking about documenting the multiple different disciplines and ways of healing, like documenting me going and riding on a horse, right? As someone myself still integrating this experience, even 30 years later, to make the point that I didn't really receive the community support like right away, like we're trying to create. So I'm literally going to take my own medicine and document actual processes. Like when we meet Reverend Dr. Cody, or I want to actually film this stuff too. So we're literally covering the story of that. And the final piece I'll say is for 2024, what I want to manifest is a new version of the Soteria House. That Hillary and I work on something called the Story Living Studio. So as a way to demonstrate and have this beacon, it's like the central New Jersey version of what we do at Centenary. Like, let's have a home that's actually this new kind of Soteria House that I live at, and I welcome in people as part of the docuseries to help them with their spiritual emergence and emergency as part of the documentary, and we can call people together at this place. So for me, that would be the greatest part of the documentary, and having that supported by philanthropists straight out. And in the screenplay I wrote, there's a big concert with John Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen and all the New Jersey musicians. So for me, I'd like to see a small version like the Count Basie Theater, to have an event there next Christmas that attracts all the resources we need for the next 10 years. So like, how do we get to that point? That would be my highest excitement. That's also doable. Like basically doable. Oh, one more thing. I'm so sorry. The evolutionary and spiritual philanthropy, Sara, means there's many different ways to give. So there may be people that have cars they're not using or vacation homes. So for me, I don't always need to get paid, but right now I'm so dedicated. I don't have a great income. And if I come back to New Jersey, it's like, I don't have a place to live. I don't want to try to get a job making 10 grand a year. So maybe there's ways to move resources around. Like you said, people have many different things to offer. It's not always money. There's different ways to support something. And that's something I want to look into with all of us and have that ethos. Everyone's contributing to the docuseries in that way, in whatever way they can. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Space there.
So I'm going to bridge and invite other people to comment. Story Living Studios has been part of the vision for the documentary and for reality. Our producer, another progress and where we're going, we have a new producer director, Brian Nitto, and he's working with us behind the scenes. We are looking to, in first quarter, to have the first episode done. It's going to be a huge task. There's going to be a major focus to piece a lot of the story together and recordings, but we're in good shape to do that in focus. But he also has connections into Netflix. So there's a real landing spot where he gets to present this to Netflix. So that's a great vision, reality that could be. We also have the Fort Monmouth in New Jersey. It looks like it's a complete deal. Always have to check, but Netflix apparently bought a major property in New Jersey. And it looks like they're bringing, the original film industry back here in New Jersey. So it just looks like there could be a great opportunity over the years for us to be connected there. So I would definitely like to see some progress on that end. Others, we're on that place called what do you want to see in your local or global community, in your work, in your mission, in your degrees, in this documentary? What would you like to see? What do you hope for? Who else has a picture? Yes, Laura.
Yeah, so I just want to piggyback off of something that Bret mentioned about documentation. Very interestingly, when I started going through the first stages of officially of what I was able to intuit was a spiritual awakening, and it was the murky, oceanic, very discombobulating dark night of the soul experience, classic dark night of the soul that a lot of people have had throughout history, but typically they are the people who are become the monks and the nuns and the people who can leave society and that kind of thing. I was told to document everything that I did. So literally have been taking, just a ton of notes, journaling like crazy, and, photographs and video, taking video and even audio recordings, not of like some of the arguments that I've had with family members, not necessarily to blame or shame them, but to listen to how I was escalating and causing more damage than I was, actually talking my way toward a deeper level of their understanding. So it's been really fascinating to be able to start back in 2007 with this documentation and see the progress that I've made throughout the years. And truly, without question, the toughest thing of all has been in trying to turn the perceptions and the perspectives of family members who have been so heavily indoctrinated into this archaic and really just deeply misunderstood paradigm. So I'm grateful that Bret brought that up, and I do encourage everyone here to document everything that you're going through, because it adds validity. When you have an idea, it's an idea, but when you put it on paper, that idea becomes your personal intellectual property, right? And it's also, so it's beautiful that way, but it also shows that progress, which is so incredibly important to demonstrate. And then the other thing that I would just add real quick, if I could, is in response to Janet's question about what I'd like to see globally as well as locally, is for us to turn to documents that are liberating, equalizing, and really unifying, like the UN's UDHR document, which is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Also the WHO's what is it called? The Equality Rights Toolkit. These are the kind of documents that I believe all people from every walk of life should be familiarizing themselves with, whether or not you are in the mental health care industry itself or not, but rather than leaning on these constructed labels and this formulated umbrella kind of experience, of bipolarity, which basically has everything but the kitchen sink thrown under it. It does not look at physical conditions. It doesn't look at, different things like your diet and thyroid issues and all of that, your exercise level, etc. But instead of looking to the DSM, looking to documents like that, where we are really understanding our inalienable rights. And I know for a fact that is a God-given experience, that God wants to liberate us and equalize us. And God has us on a trajectory of evolution that includes everyone. And as Bret was speaking, I was thinking also about the fact that I've worked so much with our houseless population. And I know that there's been a lot of work at Rutgers in defining the difference between psychosis and what a spiritual awakening would entail. And I've read quite a bit of that research Thank you, Janet, for sending that to me. It's a fantastic start. It's a door opener. But to me, it falls very, very short because it's not inclusive. And what it does is it sets us up for judging others in a horrific way that can absolutely stigmatize and continue to thwart the spiritual progress for thousands, if not millions of people. Because dear God, you know, we're talking about people, like our houseless population is enormous here in the United States. You know, this problem of being houseless, of being on different types of, drugs that are so debilitating, but using them for escape. You know, if you talk to these people, they're voice hearers. They are people who are dealing with what they know to be, you know, I mean, I'm just going to say it straight out, like evil forces, you know, a demonic kind of presence. Yeah. And when you start talking to them in ways that encourage and uplift and edify and tell them that they are worthy of love, worthy of dignity, worthy of integrity, you know, worthy of honor, and that they deserve a quality life just as equally as, you know, to anyone else on this planet, and you start to build that into them, they respond so immediately. And we've literally helped people get off the street, you know, from truly being at death's door, you know, to absolutely changing their life around, and to being able to participate in social programs and just these beautiful programs of recovery that are so just so full of hope. And so, you know, to try to separate these groups out and try to figure out who's having a legitimate spiritual experience and who's not is, I think, a very dangerous road. And so I hope that we will really think long and hard before we continue to do that, because we need to be as inclusive as possible here.
You know, I'm going to bridge from what you just said there into what's going to be the difference in our documentary. You know, we're going to be looking at all sides of issues. We're going to be sorting a lot of topics. And you did say it. The point that Rutgers made for many of us is that it was a game changer that psychiatrists are even talking about the spiritual part, you know, and I just like to keep endorsing and supporting what's the good news, that it's actually out and that it's even being introduced. You know, what we do with that and how we address it in the documentary, you know, will definitely be more on the order of where you're going on that. I know Colleen would like to say something, which we would love to hear. So yes, please, Colleen.
Sure, thank you. So one of the things, Laura, that you made me think of is one of the focuses of my research is really looking at challenging the notion that people who disagree with their pathological label lack insight or in denial if they don't agree, right? So I think one of the most important things for me to sort of get across through the use of this docuseries is that there's something to be said for honoring somebody's inherent wisdom, right? And what they believe their experience to be. And oftentimes, some people do know what they're going through and understand it to be spiritual. They have the requisite knowledge, right? For others, they may not, and it may be completely overwhelming and terrifying. But if they're given permission to speak honestly about their experience, more often than not, there's a spiritual component there, right? That maybe often doesn't get spoken about because they don't feel that they're in a safe place to express that. Or if they do, they'll get shut down and be told, oh no, that's psychosis, right? Because a lot of the times, because there is no spiritual competency within the mental health system, and there is no spiritual framework for understanding these experiences, if you go into a hospital and say, I'm having a spiritual experience, more often than not, they're going to translate that as being psychosis, right? So I think it's really important to understand that people do have some inkling, some wisdom, some intuition of what's occurring for them.
I want to bridge on that too. You know, there's so much information and shared knowledge behind the scenes amongst practitioners and experiencers. It's just not out in the mainstream news. And I see absolutely no reason this won't be out in mainstream news, at least locally. We do have an intention with some of the colleges to get that support, that at least academia can start helping us get that out, but also through clergy and other mental health organizations for us to bring out some of the facts on chemical imbalance that has been out since the year 2000, and the research pieces that Laura mentioned. And there's another one, Jim Gottstein's team, improving patient outcomes. It's another one. We have a number of very recent documents that they can be news for mainstream viewers. And I see that next year. I absolutely do. I see no reason why we won't have that. I would love to hear from, John, if you would. What do you see? Having watched this now for a few years, what do you want to see happen next year?
It's not the only thing I want to see happen, but I want to say this, and then I need to leave. So
Okay.
I will be saying my goodbyes.
Okay.
One thing that hasn't come up much in this conversation, because there's been a lot of focus as appropriate on our legal challenges and also on the documentary and things like that, legal challenges and the systemic challenges that everybody's working on. When it's time, when the Holy Spirit moves and it's time for the movie, one of the things that some of you may not be aware of if you haven't seen the script or know enough about Janet's story is that it's going to be it has a lot of humor in it. Because Janet, because she was so aware of what was going on, she knew how to handle the people in the institution so she could get out in time for Christmas. And it has a very winsome, there are very winsome scenes that will come up. So it's not some sort of diatribe about you people don't understand and you need to get it straight. It will be a story that people can relate to more easily, and even if they haven't had a traumatic spiritual experience and things like that. So doesn't have to happen in 24. I'm just saying I'm looking forward to that element as we talk about all of these things that will raise awareness in the world, and that will be I don't know how, it might be a comedy drama. I don't know.
No, I'm glad you raised that, just to make me laugh, because many people did not have a pleasant experience, in the hospital, nor was mine. But there are some pretty humorous scenarios. You can't make it up. The patients call me a spy. They said, "You're not one of us. You don't belong here." But it was all the patients who knew that, not the doctors. And then, I was getting so many calls on the hallway floor. The patients say, "Janet's office," I'll get her in a minute, Janet's office, and they saw me with a clipboard and, whatever. So yeah, there's going to be some reality, funny stuff. And, maybe it's not funny, but it could be.
Well, it's the incongruity of it, because we have the images we have are One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and, that from all of the movies, and the fact that it's real and that you were that aware doesn't fit the people's mental conception of what happens in these situations.
Yes, and people might have heard it, but I'm going to say it because it's part of, and I know many people, we've seen our medical reports, and it's ridiculous. Like, there's like silly stuff in those medical reports. Two of them that come to mind is my medical report from 2005 said I had delusions of grandeur, thinking I'm connected to Wall Street. And I'm telling them, I was just on Wall Street presenting. Sure you are, and it's also written in my medical report, just now. Right? Written in my medical report, delusions. She thinks she's going to make a movie. Because they kept saying, "Why are you here? Why are you here?" I said, "I don't know. I'm going to make a movie." And that was written in my report. So, thank you, though. That's I do want to bring out, some of the things that can just make us laugh because they're so ridiculous. And there's such patterns, lacks insight. We probably all got that written. And here we are, law degrees, masters, PhDs, with lacking insight. So, in our last few minutes, Nadine, I'm gonna just help kick it off. What I picture. Bye-bye, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nadine, early on, and I hope that it's still the vision, but there was a time you said, "What are you doing in February? I'm going to take a flight from the UK to New Jersey because there's something so important here." So we did move that to August, but could you comment on that? Because that's a reality. And whenever you know that you're flying here, we're going to get a number of other people to this location based on it. So tell me what that vision or landing spot or reality is in your minds.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned February initially just because that's my birthday and I wanted to be somewhere that's not as cold as it is here, and to just push forward this agenda that we need to get this conversation had, and the stories that need to be shared need to be told, I feel, quickly, because not that we're running out of time, but for so long we've just been carrying on with the rhetoric of the fact that when you go into a mental health institution, you're medicated without your consent, and either it results in a negative outcome, or if you're lucky, you're okay. But we can't continue with this, because there are millions of people across the world who are being medicated against their will, and we're talking about it. Change needs to happen. So for me to go and fly and obviously present and talk to you, I'd love to be there tomorrow if I could, but I'm still studying. I've got my exams to complete, so we pushed it to August because my exams are finishing in July. Yeah. Otherwise, I would love to be there sooner. But yeah, I just feel this urgency that we don't really have this time to keep talking. We need to take action, and it's my impatience as well, because obviously I've lost my father. I've got a family member who's still struggling with their health, and it's not looking good. And I just keep seeing there's so many stories of people struggling out there, and we just need to do something. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for that vision and that immediate landing spot. But, announcement, we are recording in first quarter, but we'll do a very dedicated recording in August. And, hopefully have the funds to fly other people in as well. So I'm going to add and seed this. We are very clearly focusing on investors and philanthropy donations now. More than likely, we are starting our own foundation, but we might partner with a nonprofit who wants to be like our sister organization to take donations, because some people have indicated they'd like to donate a sum of money for the documentary. But that's our reach now, because obviously you need funds to produce the level that we want to. And we are definitely looking to produce 3 episodes. The target we're looking for is 75,000 for the documentary. The movie has been scoped out to be 10 million. We are looking at some celebrity endorsements in New Jersey, and hope to be really getting into those conversations in the next few weeks to, into the first month. But it always helps to have the rest of us, passing it on and reaching out, because that just is a reality of this project, to get some deep pocket endorsements and support. So I believe that's going to happen. I see no reason why we won't, to get that. So last thoughts on what do you want to see happen from our audience, if there are any questions about the project, that there is a plan and a process that keeps evolving. Hillary, you used the term emergent strategy. That's a real thing. So an emergent strategy is emerging as we go, but we do have a structure that we emerge from. In January, we'll put out a little bit more definitive plans so that people can see some of the structure. So any final parting thoughts, visions, questions? Yes, Marlena.
Yeah, so I just thought of, I'm kind of thinking about sort of the younger generation, and, I was thinking about colleges, right? That's a big place for the younger generation to have a mental health crisis unfold, but, it can happen to anyone, anywhere, right? And I think about where's a big place that a lot of young people congregate and find healing through alternative methods is actually music festivals or like art festivals. And these festivals are often like kind of experimental little cities for a little bit, and I find those to be very interesting because they operate outside of the paradigms of our world, kind of within it, right, obviously, but they're creating a new like little experimental pop-up city for a little bit, and they even have their own support services with peer support, especially like psychedelic integration and peer support. And I would think that that would be a good point of interest to cover is, how are these festival communities handling, people in crisis, because a lot of people do have crises out there, at the festival, because they go there to have an experience in various different forms and methods, right? And a lot of people have very overwhelming experiences that they don't know what to do with, especially once they leave this festival environment and they go back to the real world, and we are faced with the modern day mental health system. There's a lot of like a weird dichotomy there of, you find this within this community, but then it's over and it's done with, and then what next? So I think that would be a very interesting, kind of social factor to look into, and just bringing in the voices of people who are currently still going through it. What do they need? What do they want? What do they want to see happen? Especially people who might have religious or spiritual or even like cult related trauma, so we're talking about the positive aspects. And ultimately there are some traumatizing aspects from different religious components, right? So I think that would be interesting to talk about as well. I don't know if that will happen necessarily in 2024, but just in the future.
It's on the agenda, and especially since you gave voice to it, all that connected to us looking at that 20-something population in the college, and then connected, I'm sure Bret will be chiming in on, if we start thinking about the impact of festival, if we do something in New Jersey, and all those pieces you said. So I think you just shone the light on an important topic. So thank you. I'm going to still invite any other comments of what you hope to see, but also, and so we'll have Bret go next, but then I'd just like to have a closing comment of what was it like for you to be a speaker here? How did that, what was the impact on you from sitting in your own home, in your own location, working on your own, to being a part of this? So that's how we'll close. So Bret, you had an original comment.
I just wanted to kind of put on the record, for the sake of sharing intentions and being clear, that I'm very interested and excited about connecting with the younger generation. So Marlena, I really want us in the new year to figure out like how I can be a part of that solution and supporting you. And I would like to say, I would love to like figure out how I end up on college campuses, like sharing my story in relation to the work we're doing, in relation to building a presence. So for example, one of the reasons I'm into benefit concerts and philanthropy and activism, so for my generation, there was something called the Free Tibet Festivals in the 90s that the Beastie Boys sponsored, and they brought light to the Tibetan cause. And what they did through doing these festivals is they basically helped fund and establish Students for a Free Tibet on almost all the campuses in America. So just take that nugget, put it in your back pocket, and like, let's make that part of, like, I would love to just be in service to that. I also think it's because I have a young heart. Like, I feel really connected to like 20-year-olds and teenagers. There's a big part of me that maybe is even stunted, right, because of my experience. But for some reason, I feel really strongly that I'd like to be a part of that. So I'm really excited. And then covering that for the docuseries, again, it's another avenue and way in. Like, to me, that's part of what we're filming, like on campus, live, and with some artivism, with some activism. Like, let's not just stand still and wait to be invited to give a keynote speech. Like, let's go on campus and hold our own pop-up thing with a loudspeaker and start rabble-rousing a little bit in a fun way, So I would be into that, like, as being part of what we document. That would be a lot of fun. And I want to go on record. I want everyone to hold me accountable to that. That's why I'm sharing out loud.
It is logged in here, Bret. You too.
Yeah. I want to be accountable to that. Yeah.
Tell me how your conversation goes as you move that forward. I'm watching Colleen smile with recognition. Do you want to go next? Comment on that, and then also what it was like for you to be here in this live event.
Yeah. Just wanted to say I was at the Tibetan Freedom concert and it was awesome. So that resonated with me. But yeah, the cause was profound. So if you could sort of start something along those lines, that would be really amazing. Yeah, no, it was really nice being part of today's discussion. I'm just really excited by all the different viewpoints that we hold and the commonality and the vision that we share. So.
Good. So like a little bit of a touch of us visiting together at ISPS, but, virtually. So, the sense of inclusion and hearing other voices. So, yes, thank you, Colleen. Laura, do you want to comment on what is it like? I know you lead so many efforts out by, somewhat on your own, and always love to have you back in the team here. What was it like for you? How does this support you?
Well, it's been really soul nourishing. Definitely, this is, as all of you know, this spiritual awakening journey is extremely solitary, and it has to be, and it just has to be by its inherent kind of most intrinsic quality is going inward. So you got to shut down from the world, and you've got to, really block out that daily hamster wheel kind of experience and prioritize that inward journey. And doing that inner work, there could be nothing more important. But it's also really daunting, and it can be terrifying, and you face a lot of things that you don't like about yourself along the way, and that's not easy. So it's beautiful to be with other people who understand that this ascension process is absolutely necessary for our evolutionary journey as human beings. I do believe that we're all headed on the same trajectory of life that is meant to be never ending, that we are all students here in a vast and complex school of life, and that frankly, regardless of our backgrounds, regardless of our belief system, regardless of our cultural indoctrination, I think we're each been given a few pieces of a giant puzzle, and that's to keep us humble. There's no one person that's got the whole puzzle yet, because then we can work together and come together and as a unified body, which I would say like the body of Christ, which that Christ consciousness is what I believe we're all working toward, and that God has is paving the way for us to head. So I'm really excited about that, and I just really hope that that to kind of reiterate a point that Bret brought up earlier, that this project, while it being incredibly important, isn't as important as the growing unity and the revolutionary liberation and equalization of the courageous voices behind it. So I hope that we will just keep building together, that we'll keep standing against injustice and oppression together, that we'll keep fighting for truth and agape love together. I know, and I hope that all of you do too, even if you call it by a completely different name or don't know what to name it, that we have a loving and merciful God that's firmly on our side, that God truly does stand with all who are lost, broken, addicted, afflicted, oppressed, enslaved, suffering, disempowered, downtrodden. And I'm pretty sure that includes everybody, regardless of race, creed, color, sexual preference, or any other perceived dividing line. So knowing that, I'm confident that staying in a place of hope in the shared space of this unfolding movie doc journey, of our shared human journey, and in a God that wields truth and love to set people free, is a truly excellent place to be.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Great place to close. We will meet again as a global team in the first quarter. I will invite other team members from other locations, and if you are hearing this later from other parts of the world, please let it be known that you want to be a speaker. We'll invite some of you back as well, just to keep this going and share what the depth and breadth that we have on this team. So I'm wishing peace, blessings, simplicity, rest, kindness to surround each of you here and the visitors that were on our chat here. Thank you. I think we're good. We'll see you in 2024. All right. Thank you. Thank you. We're closing
Happy
out.
holidays, everyone.
Yes, blessings.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy New
Christmas.
Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa.
Happy
We'll talk
holidays.
soon. We'll talk soon.